Welcome to Alpha Bites, where we serve up bite-sized insights to help you grow your business and your bank account. Our host, Alex Zinni, CEO of Alpha Key Digital, dives into the latest marketing trends, proven strategies, and actionable tips to scale your online presence. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, Alpha Bites delivers the keys to unlocking your success. Now, let's get started with the show.
I'm Alex Zinni, your host of Alpha Bites, where I sit down with inspiring business leaders, artists, and entrepreneurs to dive into what drives them and to uncover the secrets behind their success. This is just our first season. We're just getting going, but we featured incredible guests like Lake County Auditor Chris Galloway, Dr. David Gutman, and Tony Picciano of Top Sales Success. There's more to come, so stay tuned for future episodes packed with insights and inspiration. But first, this episode is sponsored by Alpha Key Digital, where we specialize in delivering measurable digital marketing results. One recent success story that we've had is with a roofing company in Ole, Pennsylvania, where we reduced their Google Ads cost by 50% in just 1 month. By refining their ad targeting, optimizing copy, and adjusting bidding strategies, we not only lowered their costs, but also improved lead quality. The result? More savings and better business growth. Moving forward, this roofing company will continue to grow and see improved returns on their marketing investment, ensuring sustainable growth. If you're interested in similar results, then visit our website at alphakeydigital.com to book an introductory call. I want to give a quick special shout out to Ryan Streb of Streb Electric. Streb Electric is a veteran-owned residential electrical company dedicated to making people smile. With over 800 five-star reviews, they're known for their exceptional service. Ryan was on the show. He was actually our first episode. So go back and listen to that one. And to learn more about Streb Electric, visit their website, strebelectric.com, to see what makes them stand out. So today's guest, I'm really excited to introduce. We're having Joey Ariemma on the show. He's a world touring musician, a songwriter, producer. He's an educator and an actor from Cleveland, Ohio, but he's based in Los Angeles, California. Joey is a personal friend of mine and somebody that I look up to because he's got so many things on the go, juggles them all seamlessly, and has an entrepreneurial spirit about him as well. So welcome to the show, Joey.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. The pleasure's all mine, my friend. You've had an incredible career as a world touring musician, as a songwriter, producer, educator, and most recently, an actor. Can you share a little bit about how you got started in the music industry and what shaped your journey so far?
Totally. Yeah. I'd love to talk about that. Music has sort of, I believe, being now a multi-hyphenate, music is just one version of listening, you know what I mean? And I think from the beginning, there's videos of my dad having like his Jackson guitar on my lap when I was 1, telling me to like play Joe Satriani, and I'm tapping the fretboard. I wasn't really playing at 1, but like I grew up, my dad had surrounded me with music. My mom and dad actually had 2 separate record collections, and I got to see like which records kind of overlapped, like the Venn diagram of their taste. And yeah, I think my imagination was really wild from like a really young age. And he raised me on some crazy cool progressive music, rock music, metal music, etc. And I think I picked the guitar up before I was playing guitar. It was drawing and painting. And then around 7, I became really, really hooked on a couple records, and that led me to really pick up the guitar. And thanks to my father, he was really always my biggest advocate, and he really helped me get the best teachers I could in the area. And we actually you and I ended up both going to Soja Music, I think, for lessons. So I learned from one of the teachers, one of the primary foundations of my technique and my craft comes from a guitar player, Tony Martin in Cleveland, who's literally world class, one of the best guitar players I've ever heard still.
Yeah, no, that's true. We both had that connection of being learning, cutting our teeth at Soja, which is, for those listening, used to be a great music shop here in Cleveland that unfortunately is no longer open. But, a lot of people, Joey, like they play musician, they're a musician, they play their music, they learn their instrument, but you took it to another level. Take me to that place where you moved from, just amateur musician to professional, and how'd you make that jump?
Great question. The move into going from amateur to professional, it is sort of a gradient. There is no start and end. There's really not a point where, I mean, there are points where I knew that things had changed, but I think it starts with a decision. It started with a mental decision. Um, I've always had the blessing and the curse of being very obsessive. And once I picked up the instrument, I approached it much like a martial art or something, where at 12, I remember like I was learning songs from 8 to 12. But then at 12, I literally was like, okay, no girlfriends, no sports, no anything, guitar. And I would practice guitar. I broke my arm, right? This is kind of the beginning of the professional journey. I'm not just talking to talk. I broke my arm snowboarding at 13. And when I broke my arm, I couldn't play guitar. I had like a full arm cast. I couldn't play guitar for 6 weeks. And I said, I'm done with everything else. It's going to be me and the metronome. And I used to practice with a blindfold on in the basement. I joked that I would get the fluorescent tan because I was just under a fluorescent light in Chesterland, Ohio. And that was it. I used to practice. I heard that Steve Vai and John Petrucci practiced 6 to 12 hours a day. So I just made it 8, and that was it.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that you said you just started with a decision, because it's so true, right? Like when I started my business, I thought about this recently because we're going on 10 years of being in business. And I thought, like, me being an early 20-year-old, what the heck? Why did I think that I could do this? And I don't know. I just made a decision. I said, I'm doing this and I'm a businessman now, and it really does start there. It's like you just tell yourself, it's like, okay, I'm now a professional. And really that's where it starts. But you also had so much dedication and, like you said, obsession, like putting on that I can picture you with the blindfold on, with the metronome going, just like go your fingers flying across the fretboard, making mistakes. But then, like, as days go by, it becomes cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, right? So what was the first time you performed on stage? Like, how old were you and how did it go?
So the first time I performed on stage is the first time I remember. I think I was 12. I was in 6th grade. I was playing for a band that was in like Mayfield or like Orange, somewhere that wasn't where I'm from. And I didn't have a lot of control over that project. That was a big moment. It was like even that sold out. It was like a school assembly or something. So of course it was sold out. Everybody was in there and I really liked it. But I kind of felt like a fish out of water there. The time that was notable is I went to high school at West Geauga in Chesterland, and I was 13, I was in 9th grade, and that was when after I broke my arm and I really learned how to shred. Um, I played the show, and I remember the high that I felt was unlike anything I've ever felt. The place was packed, and it was almost like a surreal moment where I don't even remember it starting or ending. It was surreal. Like the faces were like melting. It was crazy. And that's when I knew right then and there, after I got off stage, like I was a more timid, shy kid growing up, especially at that age, like pre or during puberty, like pre-pubescence, becoming a young adult. And then like after that, like girls came up to me and were like, said some, I don't know if I should say it on the podcast, but they said some crazy stuff to me. And I was like, I think I'm doing this the rest of my life.
How many people have have had that happen to them too, Like I remember play at my high school, 14 years old, we played like a battle of bands. I don't even remember what it was, honestly, but it was in the pep rally,
Yeah.
and I remember standing on my amp and just like trying to shred. And I wish I had like footage of this, but afterwards, this girl, I'm not going to say her name or anything, but she came up to me and handed me a little note with her phone number in it. And I was like, wow, amazing. There we go. That helped my obsession for sure to play music.
100%. 100%. It wasn't just like a girl thing, but I remember specifically a guy who's still helping me to this day, John Roma. I got to shout him out. My best friend from Ohio. And now he's in Pittsburgh. For a pep rally once, I had a wireless for the first time, and he had pulled me out on like one of those like wheeled platforms. It was so extra, dude. Yeah. So pep rallies are really a good place to get the feeling of being a rock star,
Well, and you said you were timid too, and you were younger, so it takes a lot of courage to get up there on stage and do that, So obviously, you had a lot of confidence in your abilities, and that's super. That comes from all that practice and hard work. But you're originally from Cleveland, but are now based in LA.
Yeah.
So I know you've lived in Nashville in between there too. What was the process like for you moving, and how do you think that impacted your music and your creative process?
So the process in moving, uh, to break it into little like short bite-sized like sequences, essentially, I left left Cleveland pretty early. I had joined a band. That band kind of was my ticket out of town, you know, and it led me to Nashville. We had met a producer who's become a mentor and a brother to me. Kind of took me under his wing as like an older bro. And I moved down to Nashville, and it got me writing 3 songs a day and, like, learning the craft of lyric. And even I think today it's easy to be, like, so results based and be like, "Well, this wasn't a hit or this didn't do anything." I learned so much in such a quick amount of time. So, when I was in Nashville, I was doing that for a couple years, 2.5 years, 3 years. I had to deal with some family stuff, with some health stuff with my family. I moved back to Ohio for like 6 months, and I had a decision there. I was like, "Okay, I'm either gonna join a band here, I'm gonna go play covers, I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do." And then I got a call from one of my friends, and I went out to LA. I was looking for a place to stay, and then I ended up, uh, sort of just becoming friends with another band, and I joined that band, and then I got to tour, so I was able to go out to LA with the job. It was really serendipitous. I don't know if that answers the question. I really think by being open to possibilities and just being kind of staying curious, it helps me. It helped me in the path, but it's not been easy because a lot of times you don't know what to do next.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like, you had a plan. Like it wasn't like you just threw your stuff in your car and showed up in Nashville. Like you had a plan, you knew people and going out to LA and that's a loose plan,
A very loose. I was about to say a very, very loose plan.
but still a skeleton of an idea, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It wasn't just like throwing stuff in the car and going and see what happens.
yeah.
But you mentioned about being open, and I really think being open is so crucial to success. Like I've seen it over and over again with people where you're open, you see opportunity and you take the opportunity. But there is a point where it's too open and it becomes like scattered. So how do you balance, because you already currently wear so many hats, right? As performer, educating, you're starting an awesome YouTube channel, which we'll talk more about here shortly, and acting. So how do you manage to like stay open, but keep the balance of being, persistently getting stuff done?
It's a great question. I am still learning that to this day. I think something shifted in my brain this past year with how the film business has been out here and expectation and understanding. I think that as creatives, we're highly usually creatives or any even entrepreneurs are the same. I believe they're also artists. I feel like everyone's an artist in their own way. And I think it's because we have a high sensitivity. We're highly sensitive people. They call them like HSPs for the most part, or at least I can speak for myself. And I'm highly open. The problem is by being open, you're porous and you almost let everything in. And if you don't if you're just throwing up a set, if you're just letting the wind take you wherever you go, it's very easy to get off track. So one thing that I'm just starting to implement now is time blocking, which is like brand new to me. And I wish I was doing it a long time ago. But I feel like a lot of people want to be an entrepreneur, be their own boss, but it's not as sexy as it always sounds. And I think there's a time and place for everything. And I think it's better just to get things done in 2 hours and do it as best as you can, as opposed to being perfect. I spent a lot of time, particularly in Nashville, trying to rehash songs, redo things. And it just becomes kind of frustrating. I don't know if that answers the question. I sort of, yeah, I sort of go ahead and try to allow the creativity to flow, but I also like to have an itemized list that I can actually handle each day.
Yeah,
And
no,
not a big list.
yeah,
4
and
things.
interesting. Like I've heard there was a quote where it's like people way overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 3. So it's like consistent effort towards goals. And one of the things you mentioned is time blocking. And I have found that to be so crucial for me. Like I even try to do days that are specific types of days. Like days are client work. These are days that I'm doing work on my business. This is days I'm doing things. And like with this podcast right now, I schedule that only for, a certain amount of time during the week for slots to get filled. So the time blocking has been so important to me. But another thing I've done too is I'm trying to block out emails. Like my fiance pointed this out to me and I'm starting to realize it too. I check my email 150 times a day. I don't need to check my email that much. I need to look at it twice, to be honest with you, right? So I'm really making an effort to dial back that because it's a waste. It scatters me. I'll see something, then I'm doing something else that I don't really need to be doing. I should be focusing on something else. So now if I just check my email twice a day, I don't get that scattered. And I think that that's, super important for me to stay focused. And the thing you said about entrepreneurs, I also believe is 100% true. Like to create something from nothing, that's the definition of creativity in a lot of ways for me. It's like, when you write a song, it literally didn't exist 10 minutes before you wrote it. You brought it into existence. Same with business. A lot of business people, they had an idea, even if it's just that they're an electrician or a plumber. I mean, they had to name it, they had to put structure to it, they had to do all these things, and that's a creative work. So, it's really that creative process is so key. What are some things that you do to like stoke the creative flame, or do you just like get to it and then find inspiration?
I find that sitting in great questions, man. You're completely this is great, really cool that you're doing it. I just want to speak real quick on how you were talking about checking the email. I feel the same way, and it's really hard to use a thing, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, that gives you business or spreads your message or develops brand awareness while also not being used by the thing. And the dopamine hit that I see when I get an audition in my email, or the dopamine hit I see when I see one of my friends that hasn't shared something ends up sharing something, or new people jump into a page, it starts to drive me. So then all of a sudden I'm kind of like in that sort of primal monkey spiral of chasing dopamine hits. So I feel the same way, and I'm actually going to implement what you said. I'm going to let myself check the email once and then at night. Once in the morning, once at night. You said for inspiration and for creativity. I find if anyone's having any trouble with creativity, I'd say the number one thing to read is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. That book changed my life entirely. As a creative, every day we have to look. It doesn't matter what you do. You have to look at a blank page. And as a creative, we have to be prepared for rejection and not being able to sometimes always fill that page. And I have become in love and very intimate with the blank page and rejection. Stephen King had a nail in his wall that was full of rejection slips from magazines that wouldn't publish it. And it was overflowing. So if Stephen can do it, and think of how prolific Stephen's been in his career. Another great book is On Writing, where he details that process. Huge. The thing I do is I'm not going to swear on this podcast. I sit my butt in the chair and I get to work. I give myself permission to write badly, but I never really feel like I'm writing badly. So I have like a disproportionate amount of optimism for me, for you, really for anyone. And I think that's actually the thing. I'm trying to discover what really is my real gift that I have to give to the world. And I think the gift is shining a light on other people and showing them what they're good at.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the nicest things that you can do for someone, right? Is to bring that optimism and that spirit and to validate others, So you have many gifts to share, so don't pin yourself into just one. I think you have quite a few. And
Thanks, bro.
One thing too that you said about The War of Art, which I'll link for those listening, I'll link it in the show notes. I'll link both The War of Art and On Writing by Stephen King, two like totally invaluable books so there's just those are amazing books for creatives. But one of the things I like about The War of Art is invoking the muse or God or higher power or whatever it is. But just to say before you're writing, like, okay, that intelligence that's out there worked through me to create. Do you do anything like that, or do you have any rituals?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every morning I get up, I have a cup of coffee, preferably cold. I have a cup of coffee. First thing, I drain it. I can't speak English without coffee. And I sit with my wife and my cat, and my cat sits on me, my cat Pumpkin, and I pray with the cat, and I do sort of affirmations and a meditation. So I try to remain a channel, and it depends how people look at it, but spiritually, I try to realize that God or the universe or whatever you want to call it is the actual gift. So I kind of repeat, I thank God the giver for God the gift. And that gets me a little bit out of result.
Mhm.
And I think the main thing when working with others is I have to remember that anything and everything that I've ever done, and I see most people doing, it's either trying to get something for yourself or it's an act of service.
Mhm.
And if I can think about servicing, what does this song need? What does this production need? That's the number one thing. And by that, if I'm open, if I know everything, I'm not going to invite the universe or God in. So I
Mhm.
have to remain open and porous enough to let things run. And I also have to have the bravery to run with the idea. Ritualistically, I've had to take a break a little bit, but I just got back in. The gym is huge for me. Nature is huge. Nature's huge. I hike on Fryman in Studio City every day when I can, when the sky isn't full of smoke. And yeah, it's those are some of the things.
Yeah, those are all great things, and glad you're safe over there. I know the LA fires are wild, and
Yeah.
glad that you're safe. But you mentioned
Thank you.
about, and we've worked with so many different businesses, and a lot of them are service-based businesses, you know. And one thing that I've noticed is that, and we even when we're crafting advertising strategies or whatever marketing strategies, you have to focus on what the other individual wants and how you can serve them. And to do that from a place of genuine caring and love, you're gonna have a great result. Like we've had clients who they're only in it for the money. They started a business, that's all they care about. They don't do as well as the ones who have, they love the vocation that they chose and they want to share it with other people, you know, and the result is that they have happy customers. So that coming in from that place of like just wanting to share and you know delight another human being, I mean that's such a high place to come from, and I think that's awesome. So when you're you know, I want to talk a little bit about a YouTube channel because offline you and I have talked about this a couple times, and you're working on a YouTube channel right now. You're getting a lot of traction, good results. You know, what made you want to get into the space of YouTube and creating content?
I've realized that YouTube, I've realized that everything I've done in my life, I've been preparing to self-publish everything. It's easy to, you're given opportunities constantly in this business to quit, right? And people think, oh, if this didn't happen, this is not going to happen. Or if this doesn't happen, this is not going to happen. Or this happened because this. With YouTube, what's amazing is I'm able to implement, because I write, I've written scripts, I act professionally, I can make music. I have an idea, and then within 10 minutes, it's real and it sounds like it's a professional something on the radio. I've written songs that have gone to radio, whatever. All of this, and I've taught the one through line since I was 12. I started teaching at 12 years old. I started teaching guitar. So I really enjoy this. People talk about loving the process, and I don't always know what that means until kind of really right now when I'm going, oh my God, I actually enjoy curating and crafting videos and educational platform. Like every time I'm hired in the physical world, I'm usually hired as a finisher because I have the balls to come in and say, this is done. This needs work. Try it this way. I want to implement that online because while I'm sleeping, someone in Europe is able to be helped.
Mhm.
And someone in India and someone in, Japan. I mean, to me, that is so exciting. I'm very excited by this. I also can always choose to hire myself. I've been in businesses where you have to be chosen to be hired. I think that died with me a while ago. Happy to be hired, but I'm going to choose myself and choose the vocation. I choose the vocation.
Definitely.
So,
And I think that's a great attitude about it. And that's why I said, in the intro, you have an entrepreneurial spirit because you kind of want to, like you said, choose yourself. You want that ownership. You want to be able to execute your vision and everything. And with YouTube, I wanted to start a YouTube channel in 2020, and I wish I could go back in time and just start it, you
me
know?
too.
And it's just like, because YouTube is kind of like the stock market, right? It grows and grows and grows and grows. And once you hit that threshold, you hit a certain point, people are going to be watching your videos, the ones that you're creating now, a year or two from now. So it's like it just keeps reaping benefits and paying off, and for the people who watch your YouTube channel, they're going to be binge watching, they're going to be subscribing, they're going to be paying attention. But it's not easy to create content, right? Like, it is very difficult. So have you found a sweet spot with creating content, or are you still on that journey of figuring out what works best for you?
Great question. I started really putting some content out again after just doing artist stuff and releasing songs for years without any real consistency, writing countless records and not putting them out. Like I'm sure a lot of artists relate to, or business owners having a lot of business ideas and never implementing them, being afraid of rejection or being obsessed with the result. I started doing it in June. I took a pause and then I started back up December 26th at 2 a.m. I posted, I was sleeping, or I wasn't sleeping. I was back in Cleveland, wasn't sleeping. And I just posted, I shared something. And it marked, there was a sort of a shift in my brain. And I just really started building this thing again since the 26th, really since the beginning of January.
Mhm.
And I'm still learning what the sweet spot is. And I'm still learning what I'm open to. I have a few friends that have been very successful in this YouTube game, and it's their only job and stuff. And I see that I'm very much about community. So I listen to when new people come in, I welcome them. And I also listen to what they have to say and implement that moving forward. I've also started on the website a subscription service where I'm going to tailor the same way I tailor lessons. Because I'm a jack of all trades, I like to show people how to do whatever they want to do. I custom tailor it to whatever they want. So the sweet spot for me, the sweet part about this is just gaining a community and getting people and listening to them. The sweet spot in terms of creating video, I will know more in 6 months or a year.
That makes sense. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different types of styles, vlogs, how-tos, in-depth tutorials, really high, like bird's eye level stuff. I mean, that it's literally, it's just, there's sky's the limit on the type of content you can create, and if there's one thing that I've seen with people who are really successful on YouTube, is you've already nailed it, is just consistently posting, consistently working at it, and I've seen, because I've been watching your channel, and it's only been a couple weeks, but there's a lot of really good activity on there. So I'm very excited to see, how that grows. Who's the person that you're speaking to? Like, I'm going to put on my marketing hat here. What's the demographic? Who's the person who should watch your channel? Is it just a mere enthusiast? Is it an advanced pro who already knows studio? Is it somebody who can play an instrument, who can't? Like, who's it for?
I find that a lot of the people I'm talking to now are interested in starting guitar again, starting production again. Right now, where I'm at mentally, the first quarter of 25 is this is being revealed to me. So some of them I have a lot of I'm pretty dangerous in a few facets of recording and doing it with a laptop at home. I think ultimately someone who's excited on taking an idea, and I think this is going to grow into something bigger than music, but the idea of just being a creative in the modern world and being an autodidact, teaching yourself and going for it, while also pairing that with a sort of, I'm very enthusiastic and very excited about sharing the knowledge and building a community, and I listen. I think a listener for me would be someone who's either trying to start playing, which I'm developing content for, start recording, but then also guys like you, I've been recording, I write, but I need to nail a drum sound. So it's paired with like very fine-tooth comb, very, very honed in knowledge and expert level stuff. But then also, because there's a lot of guitar players on YouTube or a lot of guitar teachers. That's cool, but I'm not just interested in that. I think the recording thing and the writing thing, I think a lot of people have trouble with lyric.
Oh, totally.
And like how many people, I want to do a thing where I explain lyric, but that's going to require that's long form. That's an hour video.
God, yeah, right. I have chapters and chapters and modules, right? I mean, lyric is something I struggled with too. And one thing that I found is I needed to be organic before I write it down. See, I used to just like write and then I would try to sing it, but now I do the opposite. I have to sing it and think about it before it makes it on the page. And if it's not memorable, if I don't remember it, like the next day or a couple hours later, it's just not, I throw it away, so it has to be memorable. But that's produced a lot of not many lyrics, but I love it. And I think that for the person who just wants to get started with recording or writing or just get back into it, dialing in, a way where they can be held accountable to shake off that resistance, like the war of art, because that resistance is always trying to make us not create, and I think, for people listening, definitely check out Joey's YouTube channel. I'll also link that in the show notes so that for those listening, just go check it out, subscribe, follow, and watch some of his really fun lives that come up. So before, I'm going to ask one final question, Joey, but before I do, I want to point people to a way to get in contact with you or your website or email. Can you just, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me is you can go to my website, which is my name, joeyariemma.com, or shorthand for that website, which will take you to the same place, is IamJoeyA.com. And if you wish to contact me directly, email, there's a contact form at the website, or you can send me an email at thejoeya@gmail.com.
Beautiful. All right. Yep. And we'll link all that in the notes too. But my last question is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten from a mentor or a friend? Doesn't have to be professional, can be personal, can be anything. But what's some amazing advice you've gotten that sticks with you?
If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Beautiful. Short and to the point, and I think it's very relevant. Very relevant. Put yourself in better positions. All right, that's Joey. Everybody, thanks, Joey, for coming on. Really appreciate you, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Alpha Bites. If you found today's insights valuable, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your network. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media or visit us at alphakeydigital.com/alphabites. Remember, the keys to your digital success are just a bite away. See you next time.